Natural selection. These are the first notes for a unit on evolution. So we're going to see about the guy who came up with the ideas, or at least wrote them down, and how he came to them. Evolution means change over time. In living things, what's actually changing is their genetics. So those genetic mutations, those genetic changes, could cause an organism to be more or less likely to survive in their environment. That's what's going on with evolution. It's the background of it. Whatever genetics you have either makes you more or makes you less likely to survive in your environment. When you're thinking about evolution, it's helpful to think about something that's not humans. So like pick your favorite animal or bird, whatever. Then kind of think of how they are adapted to work in their environment. Story time. We'll get to Darwin's theory of evolution in a minute. But first, we're going to talk about who the heck this guy was. He lived in the 1800s. He was what they called back then a naturalist instead of a biologist, but he basically was interested in living things and all the different animals and plants in the world. So he got an opportunity to go on a ship called the HMS Beagle. I mean like Pirates of the Caribbean sailing vessel type ship. And they went all around the world. You can see their path here if you follow the little arrows. They came out of England, went down around South America, up the other side, back around Australia, up around Africa, and eventually back to England. Took 5 years on a boat. It's a long time on a boat. But every place they went, he wrote down and drew pictures of and took samples of all the different animals and plants and everything that he saw. So here's some things that he saw. This is also not on your notes. We're getting to that. This is all the things he saw. First of all, there's a lot of different living things in the world. I mean, just look at like Africa. There's so many different living things. He found some fossils. Like that picture up there in the corner is a giant sloth that is about 8 feet tall. Yeah. So he found these giant fossils that are clearly extinct animals. So he thought, well, maybe they're related to the animals that are alive today. And he realized that organisms can look different depending on where it lives. So you can tell that something is a bird, but it's going to look a little different depending on where you find it, even though you could still tell it's a bird. One place that was very important to him was the Galapagos, which I'm going to back up to this map. See right here, Galapagos. Right at that little point there is where the Galapagos are. On the Galapagos, they have giant tortoises and finches, which is kind of bird. One thing he noticed about the tortoises was that every tortoise had a different kind of shell depending on which island they lived on. Also, with those birds, they all had different beaks depending on what they eat. So these were two examples of living things changing to fit their environment. You can see where he's starting to get this idea, looking at all these animals and plants and how they've changed over time, evolution. And he's kind of coming up with his idea of how this happens. Now, when you are on a boat for 5 years, there's not much to do back in the 1800s except read books. So he read lots of books on things like artificial selection, which is how humans breed dogs, but we choose which traits there are. He read books about how the earth can change, like volcanoes and things like that. He read up ideas from other people about how animals might change. So he took all these ideas, all these things he saw. He was on the boat for 5 years, went back to England, and thought about it for like 20 years. And eventually, he kind of came up with the central idea that evolution happens. He wrote a book that is called On the Origin of Species. And in that book, it's kind of a ye olde English type book. I mean, if you want to read it, go for it. But he basically was making 5 points. So that's what the end of this note is, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. I think it's A, B, C, D, E on yours. Those are basically the 5 ideas he was talking about. Point number 1, struggle for existence. Life is hard. Got to fight to survive. Again, it helps to maybe not think of people. Think of like your favorite animal or plant. They have to fight to survive. They have to get resources from other organisms in order to survive. Point number 2 of Darwin's book, survival of the fittest. It's important to know this word here, fittest, means something different for each living thing. So what fit means for a cheetah might be fastest, or a fit for a giraffe might mean tallest, or fit for a human might be smartest. So it's whatever is best for you. Those that are the best of the best survive, make more babies that are like them. The ones that are not the best die. So organisms that are best adapted to their environment are able to live and survive better to make more offspring that are like them. Those that aren't die. That's survival of the fittest. Fittest means something different for each organism, but whoever is the best survives. Point number 3, natural selection. Nature chooses who is most fit. So it doesn't matter if you're like the nicest cheetah to ever exist, if you have so many friends, it doesn't matter. If you are a slow cheetah, you're going to die. Nature don't care. Nature is choosing the fast cheetahs, as their prey is also very fast. They have to run fast to catch their food. If you're slow, you're dead. Sorry. Too bad. Point number 4 in Darwin's book was descent with modification, that over time, that choosing of traits can change organisms. So maybe we have here the ancestors of a horse. This has to do with humans too, because humans had some say in horses. Humans wanted tall horses that could run quickly, so they bred them together to make tall horses that can run quickly, and that's all we have today. We don't have any of the small ones anymore. Or if we go back to cheetahs, their prey kept getting faster and faster and faster, so they had to get faster to chase it. The slow ones died out over time. Now we just have fast cheetahs, no slow ones. Giraffes, they could access food higher than other organisms. That's why they have those big long necks. They can survive better because they can get more food. So over time, the short-necked giraffes died out. They couldn't get any food. The tall-necked giraffe survived, and now all we have are tall necks. And finally, number 5, everybody's related. You are related to fish and elephants and dinosaurs and everybody. Everything is connected. We're all related. Now, for this whole unit, we're going to come back to all these points, and we're going to see what evidence do we have that evolution happens. What does it look like in real life? Is it happening in humans? We're going to see all those things coming up. The point of these notes today was just to go through how Darwin figured out what he did, and then his 5 points. That's the most important thing from here. Struggle for existence, survival of the fittest, natural selection, descent with modification, tree of life. Those 5 things. Those are the big ideas here. Your secret word for today will be Darwin. Since notes are all about him, why don't we make him the word? And again, we're going to come back to all these points. So if you have them all written down, you can reference them later. Great. See you next time.